and they're not in the bubble, which
No.
I'm still curious. Obviously, it's one of those things I'll never get to experience, and that's a double-edged sword, I suppose. But I'm curious what the bubbles look like. We have, though, an opportunity, excuse me, to take a brief look at the bubbles. We've got the Edmonton map here. We've got Rogers Place, the hotel, the Events Plaza, the Sutton Place Hotel, the I can't. I'm not gonna try and squint and read that on the Skype call, but I mean, there are options. They meant, yeah.
Delta.
um, but I mean, it's right in my mind. You say bubble, and I just flash back to the Simpsons movie where the huge glass dome sits over Springfield. But of course, it's nothing like that, right? It takes a lot of work. And there we've
The
got the one
Simpsons
in
movie.
Toronto.
Not
Yeah,
even an episode, just the movie.
the
Wow.
movie's the one with the dome. What could I tell you? But
Yep.
there's the map of the facilities out in Toronto, and
Yep.
a lot of work going into maintaining these bubbles, and obviously they've had zero positive tests, so it's going great as compared to say baseball.
Mhm.
Um, I just think they're doing a fantastic job. I've been really impressed with all of it, including the look of the games. Now, the NHL gave us a preview of what they thought it would look like. You're seeing it there on the screen,
Yep.
and the actual finished product, pretty close.
It looks really nice.
Yeah.
Producer Chris earlier was saying it's very WWE-esque, and that's kind of what they do at WWE. Lots of big lights, lots of
Mm-hmm.
big screens, just kind of filling in the atmosphere. But I wasn't sure what they were going to do with the seats, and I love how they covered them. So it's almost like you're forgetting the fact that something should be there because they put so many things there to distract you in a great way that it's I think it ends up looking really, really nice on television. And then they supplement with so many great shots of the game and the gameplay that you kind of forget that you're missing so much at the same time. So I've really enjoyed the product that they've put on so far, Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to feel normal, right? That's
Right.
just inevitable. And so, I'm watching the preseason games, and I've been watching preseason games, whatever we're calling them, the exhibition
Exhibition
games.
game. Yeah.
But I mean, I've watched a little bit of baseball. I've seen a little bit of the basketball, and I like the cardboard cutouts at the baseball stadiums. I do like the tarps, or whatever you want to call it, the canvas screens they've put over the seats in the NHL, and I think it is like your brain sees it and it's not normal. But at the
Right.
same time, as long as you know what's going on in place of it, whether it's the cardboard cutouts, whether it's the canvas tarp, I think because you know what it is, you're subconsciously you're doing the quick transition math. You're like, oh, okay, right, there's no fans because the thing that says the NHL's there, and then you just sort of move on, right?
Right.
And maybe once every 10 minutes I'll catch myself, right? Especially it happens the most when the camera angles change.
Yeah.
They're experimenting, it seems like, with especially on the power play, with
Yeah.
this moving camera, and it pulls out to a broader view. Alan Walsh has complained about it on Twitter. I happen to agree with him. I'm not sure I
More
like it,
behind
but
the net on the power play view.
no, it's more like in the corner. It's just it
I
feels like
gotcha.
it's a wider view, and the camera moves more, whereas in the normal broadcast it's sort of stationary, set at blue line or center ice or whatever.
Sure.
And I get it, it's a work in progress, so I'm not trying to be critical. But it's just in those transitions is when I'm most aware of the fact that there's no fans. But I do like the pumped in sound more than I thought I would.
Oh, I love the pumped in sound. I was never not a fan of that going into it. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that's so necessary. You think about it, you cannot have a silent arena and have hockey players be heard while they're playing their game. It is like that should be what it's most jarring when you can hear them yelling and I'm like, "Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We have to be mindful of
Yeah.
not catching those words that they might be saying that aren't TV friendly, but for the most part, those are the only moments where I am reminded, oh yeah, there's no fans. Yes, there's that artificial crowd noise. Whoa, did I just hear somebody yell down deep in the corners?
Right.
Okay. And then like you said, you kind of just move on. You register for a quick second, like this is different, but my brain is happy with the experience where I'm not stuck dwelling on anything, kind of sitting there
Yeah.
like a curmudgeon, like, this is terrible, like the whole time. I'm not feeling that at all. Plus, you pair it with just our general excitement that the sport has returned. I feel like a lot of that, like you said, we're just very forgiving about it right now.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because you can't. in a perfect world, you'd have lots of opportunity to experiment with different presentation options,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't mind the fake noise. I thought I would dislike it, but I don't. But I'd still be curious to see what some other alternatives are. We don't have
Sure.
time for that, right? We're going into games, so we got to pick something. We got to move with it, and then hopefully we never have to deal with this again,
Yeah.
right? And so
What would you do if you had to think
I
of
don't know.
something off the top
I
of your
don't know.
head? I know that
I
puts
mean,
you on the spot.
my first impulse would be to just let us hear it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a 42-year-old guy with a blue streak in my language, so I don't mind hearing salty talk, but I can understand if you're a parent of a young child who wants to watch hockey, maybe you're not interested in hearing everything that gets said on the ice. So there's that. I'd be really curious. One of my friends who's involved in TV production was talking about the idea that scoring a game live, using crowd noise instead of music,
Yeah.
is a skill that we've never thought about before. But it turns out there might be people who are really good at it.
Yeah.
Right, matching crowd noises and crowd reactions to moments in the game. For example, we had an overtime goal. We'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
In the Philly-Pittsburgh game, maybe there is somebody out there who's better at working a soundboard and getting the correct crowd reaction to that moment than other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it'd be nice to try and find that person. But like I said, we got real games starting on Saturday. We don't have time to audition crowd scoring specialists. So no. But all in all, 9 out of 10. I mean, it's great.
It's another example of people having to do the heavy lifting in areas where, it would already be lifted for them. Like the girls were talking about having to pull stories from different areas because of the things that they can't organically find. It's probably the same for that person. I think I'm not 100% of who is doing it, but I would assume it would be one of the game entertainment staff members who would usually just play the music. So it's another example of like, like I got to add this to my plate that I've been used to for so long. So it's very interesting to see how it's all done. I wonder if there's a crowd noise specialist though, or if
there might be.
There's a need for it now.
I guess we'll find out.
There's a need for it.
But let's go ahead and look at some of the highlights from some of the games that have already been played. Excuse me. There'll be 3 more today. We started off the very first goal of the return, phase 4, whatever we're calling it. Connor Sheary there scores for Pittsburgh, and man, did it feel good to see a goal scored.
Absolutely. And, I think that'll go down in the history books too. Like I keep looking at this as such a historic time that hopefully we don't have to repeat. So just seeing that happen, it's just a little bit of a nice punch of like, ooh, hockey. Yeah. Puck on the net. Let's go.
And a real goal, right? Like it didn't bounce off of somebody. It didn't come on a broken play or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a real goal. And thank God they didn't have like an offside review. But anyway, we also had our first overtime goal. Now, and I'm an old man, so I still say that's a 2-line pass, but a really nice finishing move there.
Absolutely. And Scott Laughton, which Taryn was talking about earlier. I mean, that's just great for him to score that OT goal. Another one that will probably go down in the history books. So it's just, I'd look at these moments as just, we're writing this unique story about this whole season in general. And that's just another special moment to add to it.
Yeah, and that goal is a little bit of hyperbole, but it reminds me of Datsuk, right? He does that move where he'd pull it back a little bit and then flip it over the goalie. He didn't flip it so much as he just roofed it, but still pulling the goalie out of position and then, sort of soft hands.
Making you guess.
Yeah. Now, the final goal in the Edmonton game, I'm on the record as saying I prefer Crosby over McDavid, but obviously I would never take away anything from McDavid. And you see that goal right there. He doesn't. We'll see a better highlight of it in a second. But Carlin, he's not looking at the net.
He's not looking at the net, and he's doing Connor McDavid things, and
so annoying.
It's to people like ourselves who could never play on that level. It is just like, oh.
Nugent Hopkins the assist. Here's McDavid walking in off the draw, shoots and scores, short side. And Edmonton all of a sudden has broken it open 4-1 as McDavid.